Governing body helper Jonathan Smith recently gave a speech at headquarters, priming Jehovah's Witnesses to follow any future instructions, even if doing so might put them in, quote, danger. This is a notch up from past warnings that explicitly state witnesses should be ready to obey, even if the instructions seem illogical or you just don't like it. It's true that Jehovah's Witnesses have been hearing this type of language for years, but this is new.
We will be saved only if we obey the instructions we receive at that time. We might occasionally find it a challenge to follow Jehovah's guidance, especially when it is conveyed by imperfect men. The counsel may conflict with our likes or dislikes, or we might feel that the direction is unwise. We may receive instructions that seem strange, impractical, or even illogical. What if we receive instructions from Jehovah's organization that at first seem ineffective? Maybe these instructions seem to make our life even harder. Or what if the instructions we receive seem overly intrusive into our personal lives? Or what if we don't understand the reasons for certain instructions? Or what if instructions from Jehovah's organization seem to put us in danger? Now's the time to train ourselves to trust Jehovah, trust those whom he is using, and faithfully obey, even in little things. Doing so prepares us not just for the Great Tribulation, but for the days ahead.
The Jehovah's Witnesses have a long-standing reputation of practicing blind obedience. As a former member of 30 years, I can tell you right now that Jehovah's Witnesses are steadily conditioned to do things that go against their better judgment, that they wouldn't do of their own volition. And they don't just wake up one morning and decide to cut off their family members, let their child die instead of receive a life-saving blood transfusion. But I'm noticing an even more disturbing pattern in recent years. And I know I'm not the only one. It's no secret that Jehovah's Witnesses have been making rapid-fire changes in recent years. Men can grow beards. Women can wear pants. Attending college is suddenly okay. It's up to one's conscience, and we shouldn't judge someone who decides that that's the route they want to take. But the thing is, what appears to be these sudden, abrupt, dare I say, progressive policy changes in recent years aren't actually abrupt. Just like this lecture from Smith will tell you, like I said, I've grown up in the organization. Jehovah's Witnesses have been trained, conditioned for decades to follow the changing winds. Wherever the wind may blow, they're expected to fall in line. So in this video, I'm just going to sort of toss my own theory into the ring about what I think this is all about. Purely speculation, purely my opinion. And I'm going to do this first by addressing 3 of the most concerning developments in the organization in the past few years, and specifically how the role of institutional coercion, fancy way of saying peer pressure from the Jehovah's Witnesses religious leaders in the congregation, how this role of institutional coercion is taking the Jehovah's Witnesses down, indeed, a dangerous path and turning them into a really scary social experiment. All right, so I'm going to try to go in order here. In 2013, this definitely caught our attention. Some of us were still active members. They put out a statement, okay? The organization put out a statement that, quote, all of us must be ready to obey any instructions we may receive, whether these appear sound from a strategic or human standpoint or not. Okay, so just echoing what Smith said earlier. But now here's the thing about this statement. Jehovah's Witnesses are so used to being told what to do, I would wager that most of us who are now awake, who are now out, probably didn't even blink an eye when this came out. But for others who are already on the fence, maybe already 1 foot out the door, it was their wake-up call to get out. So I'm quoting this particular article for a reason, because this laid the groundwork to start introducing little changes that would have otherwise been considered blasphemous, such as, yes, their dress code changes. I mean, we all laugh at it and we make fun of it, but through the lens of a boomer who was told that if she didn't wear a skirt and pantyhose to the Kingdom Hall, her worship wouldn't be acceptable to Jehovah. It would be disrespectful to approach Jehovah's house of worship like that. She's in her 70s now, and you're telling her she can wear a pair of dress slacks to the Kingdom Hall? I mean, sure, we laugh at it, but that was a big change, and you could argue it was strategic. I mean, the organization is an old, dusty, dying religion. And by the way, when I say that, I'm not being ageist. All right, I would take Sean Connery over Timothy Chalamet any day. I mean, any day of the week and twice on Sundays. But again, seriously, it looks like a silly, ridiculous change. Like, great, okay, you joined the 21st century. Now all your men don't look like they're permanently prepubescent. They just knew they weren't relatable. They knew they were going to have to start making some changes or else they were going to become increasingly irrelevant in the new millennium. But they also knew they couldn't make these big changes in one fell swoop. So they start with the dress code change, okay? And this is where the coercive element comes in that I'm talking about. The whole dress code thing would have been considered questionable 10, 15, 20 years ago. Why? Because one of the hallmarks of a cult is telling people what they can wear. If you just look at the Bite model developed by Stephen Hassan, the group that you're a part of could be considered a cult if it attempts to, quote, control types of clothing and hairstyles. Never forget, beards and pants were at one time punishable offenses. They adjusted and regulated their behavior based on this threat, not because they just love being clean shaven and love their maxi skirts. This was just the beginning. And what makes it even more, in my opinion, sneaky is that this first change. Yes, like I said, it was shocking to the old timers, but it was just innocuous enough. I mean, this might sound like a strong comparison to make, but when a predator seeks to abuse a child, they don't do the big main act of abuse right away. What do? Little gifts, little words of praise, little acts of affection, candy. On the surface seems harmless enough. Oh, this adult thinks that I'm special, is doing all these little things for me, earns the child's trust, and it's usually someone the child knows. I stand 10 toes down on this, that the dress code change was just the beginning, was the first in a long line of changes that was priming Jehovah's Witnesses for something bigger down the line. Okay, so you got the organization doing something seemingly harmless, like, oh, you can dress differently now. But then, as of 2024, they're telling witnesses, if you attend college, it's a matter of conscience. No one should make you feel guilty. It's a matter of conscience. Whether you want to pursue higher education. When they shat on higher education, they shat on college for decades. This was understandably infuriating to a lot of former J-dubs. But I do find it funny because not like ha-ha funny, but it was technically never a rule that you couldn't go, but you were highly, highly strongly discouraged. But it was never technically a rule, so you would have people that are like, oh, I've been using my conscience this whole time. I'm going to go anyway. That's what I did, and I got shit for it. My point being that there's people who didn't wait on the GB. They just used their conscience and went anyway. But you see the way they frame that, the fact that they framed it that way, that, oh, well, now we've decided that it's a matter of conscience. Like, you got to wait on these men to make a major personal life decision, shows you the coercive nature of the Jehovah's Witnesses. But circling back, unlike other denominations, like the Mormons, for instance, I mean, they got their crap, but unlike other denominations where this was never an issue, Jehovah's Witnesses have historically been discouraged, if I haven't said it a million times already, from pursuing higher education because of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They're going to learn about evolution. They're going to be exposed to ideas that challenge the Jehovah's Witnesses ideology. They're absolutely going to be exposed to people and ideas and ways of life that they've been inoculated against this whole time in the organization. Again, hallmarks of a cult. This is behavior control and information control. To give you some idea, if you're not a former Jehovah's Witness, this robbed generations of Jehovah's Witnesses of opportunity, of financial opportunity, to go to college, earn a degree, especially back in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, to earn a degree that would pay higher wages so that they could support their families better. But you see, now that all the boomers are dying off, they need money. See, boomers were their cash cow. And even a huge chunk of this cohort has barely scraped by, had financial issues their whole life because they didn't go to college. All right, so now the organization is having to appeal to Gen Z and Gen Alpha who are coming up. They got to walk back their stupid anti-college stance, but they also can't openly endorse college. It's a tricky line they got to walk. But the whole college thing is just another example of this gradual conditioning that's coming from the top. And finally, and this isn't the last change they've made, is after 50 plus years, they change their blood policy. Thousands upon thousands. If you're not familiar with Jehovah's Witness history and culture, countless innocent Jehovah's Witnesses died unnecessarily because of the organization's prohibition, because of their ban on blood transfusions. And this is far too extensive and heavy a topic to do. I'm not going to do a deep dive here. Bottom line, they're not saying that you can get blood transfusions now, but they made an ever so slight policy change that would allow certain procedures. Again, far too extensive a topic, but if you had a certain condition or whatever, it made an ever so slight policy tweak where they're allowing certain procedures that would require blood. Now, the dress code change doesn't seem so random. If you lost a loved one to the blood transfusion ban, and you're still a devout witness, the degree of denial to swallow that change is evil. It's pure evil. But you were told. You were told to obey, even if it seems illogical. If it seems illogical, it doesn't make sense, you just don't like it. It was more abstract back then when we heard it in 2013 and in years prior to that. It was more abstract. In your head, you're thinking, because this is what we're taught, maybe they mean, because in the latter half of the 20th century, this is what we all heard. Maybe it means, be prepared to be thrown into a boxcar. You're headed to a concentration camp. The government's coming to get you. You're going to be put before a firing squad. You're going to have to sign a declaration signing your, renouncing your faith. Like those were always the examples we were given. But what if it's, hey, remember how your 10-year-old daughter died unnecessarily because we wouldn't allow this procedure? Yeah, it's cool now. She can. Conditioned. Smith also mentions in his lecture that the governing body wants everyone to know how proud they are of Jehovah's Witnesses for following orders when it came to the COVID-19 response. Now, for most Jehovah's Witnesses, that meant complying with mask mandates, attending services on Zoom instead of the Kingdom Hall. For others, it meant get vaccinated or lose your position.
During the early part of the COVID-19 pandemic, when we were asked to stop meeting at our kingdom halls and to suspend our house-to-house ministry, did you struggle to obey? Yet your obedience protected you, united you with your fellow believers, and pleased Jehovah. All of us are now better prepared to obey any instructions we receive during the Great Tribulation.
What's next? Take this pill and wake up in paradise. I'm being only slightly hyperbolic. What is a Jehovah's Witness supposed to surmise from language that suggests that they should obey even if it seems the organization is putting them in, quote, danger? So I know a lot of us in XJW circles or in the XJW community, we have family who are still in, a lot of us are shunned, and a lot of us almost all of us have had the conversation about Jonestown. Like, oh no, what if they're prepping Jehovah's Witnesses to drink the Kool-Aid? Personally, I'm just going to say this now. I don't think that's ever going to happen with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses, the organization, is filthy rich. They'd be killing their piggy bank. I get why people's brains would go there. I'm not making light of it or making fun of it. But Jim Jones, he was a fringe preacher who went off the rails, took his small, in comparison to the Jehovah's Witnesses, his small congregation, took this isolated community to a compound in Guyana. It was horrific. But the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not going to poison millions of Jehovah's Witnesses. They'd be killing their money. All right, ruling in heaven with Jesus as kings and priests is their booby prize. So yeah, if you're stressed about that, highly improbable that they would ever pull a Jim Jones. No. My 2 cents, yes, this is disturbing language, even if it puts you in danger. But my theory is that they are facing mountains of litigation for various reasons, and they're going to be looking for new and inventive ways to get the rank and file to fall on the sword for them. Philip Brumley, head attorney for Watchtower, got sanctioned by the court, upheld on appeal, had to pay $154,000 for signing sworn affidavits he knew were not true. So, personally, I think that's what all of this is culminating in. It's 2026, the chickens have come home to roost, and the recent social media launch that we're seeing on TikTok and Instagram, this whole JW press room thing, it's just a strategic distraction to throw witnesses off the scent and try to, in their own way, which is ridiculous, they're not going to succeed, their own way to try to untarnish their reputation in greater society and try to win goodwill with the public. Whatever it is, yeah, it's scary. It's putting the rank and file in compromising positions. I suspect putting them in a position to take the fall for whatever their religious leaders are about to do or have done. And like I mentioned, a lot of us have family members who are still stuck inside, who are either brainwashed or too terrified to speak up. So, hearing talks like this, with this sort of language, understandably has a lot of us, in XJW circles, understandably has a lot of us on edge. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. If you'd like to keep up with these developments, learn more about the inner workings of the Jehovah's Witnesses from a former member of 30 years, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.